If you work in quality control at a candy factory, you know strict safety regulations come with the job. It's why you partner with Grainger. Grainger helps you find the high-quality and compliant products your business needs to inspect, detect, and help correct issues. And the sweetest part is, everyone gets a product that's as safe to eat as it is delicious. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Live at lunch.
You are looking live.
Live at lunch. Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny on 104.5 ESPN, Baton Rouge.
What the hell's going on out here?
Now, here's Jimmy Ott and Charles Hannegriff.
Yeah, for some reason or another, you sound a little tall on radio.
Is it live? Is it live? Is it live?
From Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs, welcome to the Monday edition of Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge. Charles Hannegriff along with Jimmy Ott. Jordan Kitchen's back in the studio. Troy Macker with us here at the bottom of the hour. Kind of a nasty weather day here, to say the least, in the capital city area, so be careful as you're making your way around. I hope everybody had a good weekend. Tons of college basketball as we are down to 16 in the NCAA tournament. The LSU women's basketball team with an easy win on Saturday night. They play again this afternoon against Florida State to see if they can make it into the women's Sweet 16. The gymnastics team won the SEC championship. The baseball team loses 2 out of 3 at Texas after taking the opener on Friday night. And Jimmy Ott had a nice weekend, I hear, for Parents' Day. So, how are you, sir?
I'm good, man.
Yeah.
Running a little low on. It's been a busy few days.
It has,
but good. And I'm just wondering if our, one of our favorite things. The first weekend of March Madness this thing is one of the big draws is facing extinction.
Is Cinderella dead?
Cinderella sure was dead this weekend, bro. This year,
yeah.
She did.
Yeah, only one double-digit seed made it to the Sweet 16, and it's pretty tough to take Arkansas with their budget, their coach, and their conference as a Cinderella.
Well, what's the big story? SEC.
7 teams in, which is the most.
Okay, and what?
14 teams in, 7 made to the Sweet 16.
And why did the SEC have some? Well, they got the bigger budget, and who has the biggest player budget in the conference? It's Arkansas, and that's your Cinderella.
Right? No, they are very tough to fit for a glass slipper.
No. So surprising. I mean, I didn't expect them because I don't. Man, I'll take Pitino over Calipari any day of the week. But kind of looking at that one, how underachieving was Arkansas this year, and how overachieving was St. John's? Is that fair?
Sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Because they look like they couldn't hang with them. The number one defensive efficiency team, we talked about the Big East, watered down. Talk about the Big East coaches looking to get out. We mentioned Sean Miller by name. Bam.
Yeah.
He going to Austin.
Listen, that was one of the biggest shockers of the tournament to me because I thought St. John's had every opportunity. I was looking forward to I told you that last Monday. St. John's, Florida was matching up to be one of the real strongest matchups. Would have been a regional final, and obviously that's not going to happen now.
Charlie, they lost by more points to Arkansas than all of the margin of losses the whole season.
I'm shocked.
You know, I mean, it didn't even come down to the wire.
So here's the second thing. If you'd have told me last week, Arkansas, they're going to surprise some people this weekend. They're going to really pop. They got a chance to upset St. John's. I'd say, okay, well then Boogie Fland's return is going to be a really big deal, and it wasn't. I mean, he played, but it's not like he came out there and
St. John's game. It was huge.
What's that?
He was huge.
Well, he had 6 points. I mean,
20.
No, he had 6 points. Boogie Fland, he had 6 points in the game against St. John's. He only made 2 shots.
So he's 20 in the first game, was it?
No.
Okay.
No, he had 6 in the first game too. I would have thought that he would have been a much bigger, scoring impact if they were going to shock some people, and he really wasn't. It was the other guys. I mean, they had
and Theo's still on the bench.
Very very balanced scoring. They didn't dominate St. John's on the glass, but they
20 minutes. My bad. Okay.
Yeah, but they made a ton of free throws, and I thought they just kept St. John's off balance. I mean, we know St. John's is known on the defensive side more, but I was surprised at how comfortable Arkansas looked against St. John's defense. Comfortable is about the best word I can use. St. John's shakes you up most of the time. They get you off schedule. They get you turning the ball over, and Arkansas didn't do any of that.
This was kind of a. We know about Arkansas, but they have that talent potential. But like you said, Flan limited with his contribution, and the biggest thing is Theo didn't dress out.
Yeah,
and he's the leading scorer,
right?
Overall, and Flan was the leading scorer before he went down with an injury. But it was the length. It was the length that Arkansas had that really gave them some problems. We know that St. John's, they could go through scoring droughts, but also, they could go through some severe free throw shooting issues as well. So, but that was. It was, like you said, it just kind of wasn't a fluke. But St. John's shot 28% from the floor for the game, and so some of these matchups, and once you saw it, where their interior length, was going to make it a problem, and that's a big story. I mean, 28. Who's going to win a game? You shoot 28%. You shoot less than 30% from the floor as a whole. I mean, that's you're not going.
And if you're following along, that was consistent throughout the whole. It's not like they went cold for a stretch. They went cold for a stretch from the opening tip, and they never were able to recover. I was surprised at how comfortably Arkansas won that game. The other game I was surprised they won as comfortably as they did was Ole Miss. I liked Iowa State. I thought that they were a legitimate Final Four contender, and after about the first, Ole Miss got off to a rough start. Maybe the first 4 minutes, and the last 36 minutes of the game, woof, I mean they just galloped all over.
Like for the first 5 minutes,
terrible. Into that first TV timeout, and then after that, like an 18-wheel truck the rest of the way to beat a very good and I think a very well coached most of the time Iowa State team. And Beard was better defensively. They gave Iowa State just fits.
Keyshawn Gilbert, second leading scorer, out for this one, and they wondered, when it was going to wear it in. I'm not surprised that Ole Miss is in the Sweet 16. When I saw them earlier this season, I thought that they were a Sweet 16 team. That's only the second time in their history. But, a big confidence is Beard. And I know that Beard's team is going to get better and better. But also, Charlie, this game and also the North Carolina game, especially in the first half, they just shot the ball so much better than they usually do.
No argument.
And there was one game this year where they got off to a great, like against Auburn earlier this year, they didn't. What game was it this year where they just started? It's Kentucky. Kentucky, yeah. Yes. Yeah. Kentucky. That was it where they just went nuts. I mean, they scored 98 points for the game. So they were it's you don't think it's sustainable, but for 2 games in 3 days, it has been. Now, against North Carolina, that's one thing. They don't play defense. And North Carolina decides, okay, let's start playing hard the second half.
Yeah.
And even the announcers during the game say, well, man, I mean, that's great. They've really picked up their defensive intensity. But, okay, well, for most of the season, they didn't. That's why they were on the damn bubble, because they have some talent on that team as well. But, Iowa State, that's a different deal to score at that clip. That's more respected to me. More of a surprise that you did it against Iowa State's defense than North Carolina's.
Now, is Cinderella dead as a topic? We're going to do some more during the course of the rest of the show. But in addition to not having the Cinderellas around for the second weekend, we also have had very, very few. In fact, just really one buzzer beater in the last couple of days. And that was Maryland beating Colorado State, which was a fantastic ending. So you can have buzzer beaters even with, it doesn't have to have a Cinderella in it. This one just happened to have the last 12 seed that was remaining. So I'll just ask you real bluntly, did he walk?
I didn't like scream it, real time.
I didn't either.
No,
my response when I saw, the reaction to it was, yes, he walked, and no, they don't call it.
Yeah.
But they don't. They're very consistent with that call. Okay, they don't call that walk. Is it a walk by the letter of the law? Yes, but is that called a travel more often than it isn't? I would say no, by probably a 5-1 margin. That is not called.
I wasn't even really looking at that, Charlie. I was more focused on the Colorado State perimeter defender who didn't help. And, he's got to help, because what are you going to do? Take a dribble or two and then pass it out? Okay, shoot up. Queen's our best player.
Yeah.
Okay? It looked like he had his mind made up. I want to get it out of his hands. Is it going to be more of a difficult shot than Queen attempted, or a clean 3? I want him shooting a 3 when I got a 1-point lead.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he gets it off, but the guy the worst.
If your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, you know prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Thing is, he's in no man's land. He didn't help on Queen, and he's off of the perimeter guy.
Yeah.
So he's in a zone, but no, like even when you're in zone coverage in football, no, but you got to guard somebody in your zone. You just don't. You don't stand there. But I thought it was, I don't want to kill the kid or whatever. But it was just that was just a blown defensive move right there.
They had 3.4 seconds on the clock, something like that, when they inbounded the ball. So there's a limited amount of things that you can do there.
Really? It went close to 5?
I thought it was 3.4, maybe 3.6.
Forgive me. I've been on the road.
I understand, man. I'm not going to hold your feet to the fire for 1 second. We got a lot. Arizona last night.
Full timeout officially at 3 seconds.
Yeah.
So 3 and change.
Yeah. Arizona last night, a terrific ball game to get through. Duke, impressive. Florida survives. We got a lot of stuff to get to.
Is Duke impressive?
Well, they beat the crap out of everybody that they played. Have they played
everybody? And who they played?
In the last month. Just about.
ACC.
Fine.
Okay, Mount St. Mary's and Baylor. And 2 minutes from campus.
Okay.
No. Who you're playing is kind of part of the deal, right?
It is.
Because is St. John's, Arkansas a result of who they played?
Is the St. John's, Arkansas a result of who they played?
Because St. John's way more impressive.
Yeah.
But that league's done.
Can two things be true? They have been impressive against the teams that they have played, yet they have not played elite competition. Their best wins in this stretch are Baylor and Louisville over the last 8-9 games, okay? But who they put in front of them, with the exception of that ACC final, they've handled everybody.
I mean, this is not the Big West, but it is a little bit like kind of trying to figure out how good UNLV was, when they would, kill. Now, they played way tough non-conference, but, I mean, I just don't know, man. I mean, you can't – man, that ACC's terrible. It's terrible.
Yeah, I'm going to tell you that Duke has been impressive against who they have played. Now, if you want to
say eyeball tells you they're really impressive, but man, this is not.
And they've got a great player who can carry them if necessary, which it's not always necessary because they played at stretches where he's been a little bit,
we saw them go through the tournament without him.
Right. So I've seen them do everything I can ask them to do, but I haven't seen them against somebody that I think is really good. They haven't beaten anybody like St. John's. They haven't beaten a team like Iowa State. If they had that game against Iowa State instead of Ole Miss yesterday, I say, well, Iowa State's better than anybody they played in the ACC. But they've been impressive with who they played.
And Hurley again. I mean, just as advertised, I guess. I mean, really, really good coach and really just a grade A, first ballot Hall of Fame a-hole. I mean, come on, dude. This is like Belichick when he wouldn't shake Dungy's hand after they finally lost to the Colts in the AFC Championship game. Come on, man. You won your last 13. And then you're going to, start expletive and, the crying the officials. Were the officials any of the reasons you won the previous 13? That's so bad, man.
He is
just such a weak leader.
He has become such an easy person to root for. He has gone over 2 years for me. Somebody that I wasn't. I'll be honest with you. When they started that run 2 years ago, I was like, well, he's a good, solid coach, but I didn't think he was anything. At that point, he hadn't done anything special over the top. Well, they won the championship, and they look great doing it. And then they do it again. It's like, okay, well, man, this guy's a great coach. And so I went from, like, kind of off my radar to, wow, look at this. This is impressive. I'll not root for him, but I'll admire what he's doing, to, man, you sure you want to act like that? To absolutely, I don't care if you're playing the former Soviet Union, I'm rooting against you.
Man, and CBS is so weak when they do his games too. But that's the game of the tournament. That's the highest level game of the tournament. I mean, you took the most talented team, perhaps, and man, it's back and forth with under 3 minutes to go. And in Florida, it was more Florida had to make the plays down the stretch than UConn. I mean, you played great. Your team executed so well, and you just throw it all away, man. You just make it so hard to respect, how well your team, how well you prepared your team when you just act like that.
He's
man.
A jerk, and I went to listen to the post game just because I wanted to see after you started to hear some of the excerpts from it. He got one thing right. He said it took an NBA guy and an All-American in Walter Clayton to make two shots that were very, very high degree of difficulty, off the bounce threes inside of 3 minutes when all of the pressure is on, to beat us. I agree with that, okay? UConn had every chance to win that game, and the best player on arguably the best team made two elite plays to win a game for Florida. I thought he got that part of it right. So I can at least cop to that. We're here at Big Mike's. Coming up, live music this weekend, because there's live music every weekend here at Big Mike's. Petty Betty on Friday night, starting at 9 o'clock. They do trivia on Monday nights, music trivia next week. And, of course, one of the best happy hours you'll see anywhere, from 3 until 7, Monday through Friday, with both draft and bottled domestic beers on special, wine, well brands, 5 days a week, plus all day on Sunday starting at 11 a.m. So you can come out and watch the games, watch the baseball, watch the golf, all of it on here in the sports bar here at Big Mike's. Family-oriented, community-oriented line dancing lessons during the week, trivia during the week, bingo during the week, all here at Big Mike's on Aspen Square in Denham Springs. Come on by and see us for lunch. Live at lunch here from Big Mike's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Back here at Big Mike's live at lunch. You can always get the show on demand. 104.5 ESPN.com, LouisianaSports.net. We'll have a new Handycast on LSU baseball coming out later this afternoon. Me, Doug Thompson, and Dan Canaveri. Also have some more on the show with that later today, LSU baseball. But we've got the Sweet 16. The women's round of 32 is underway with NC State beating Michigan State 25-9 in the first quarter. The LSU women play at 5 o'clock today against Florida State. They are an 11-point favorite in the PMAC. Some of the other games that we didn't get to in the first seg, Jimmy, Kentucky, a small underdog to Illinois, but they managed to win that game, get to the Sweet 16 in Pope's first season there. Mentioned about Arizona last night. Oregon came out 17-4, just flailing away, and Arizona had reeled them in by about the 15-minute mark of the first half. But I was really Tommy Lloyd, I thought, was playing with fire when he had a Waka out of the game in the last 5 minutes, and he was really dominating on the boards, and Oregon was able to get back in it because Biddle really took advantage when Awaka was out of the game, but Arizona held on to win that one by 4 to put themselves into the round of 16. Any other games other moments that stood out to you? This weekend?
The thing about Oregon, Arizona, the first thing is, great Pac-12 matchup, Big 10, Big 12.
Did you hear what Dana Altman said before the game? It wasn't right before the game, but he said, "I want to schedule them home and home. I want to play them home and home every year, even though we're not in the same conference anymore." Which I like that idea an awful lot.
Yeah, I mean, they should. It's college basketball is not college football. They do schedule so much tougher, non-conference, and the physicality of the sport, it's different. I understand it, but Caleb Love is a big story, and you just don't know what you're going to get from game in. Yeah, he's very capable, and I mean, he was 10 of 18 from the floor, 5 of 7 from 3 for 29 points, and that's just. He was too much. They needed every bit of it because Oregon, I think Altman is much stronger on the bench than Tommy Lloyd. But, Arizona, just a little bit stronger roster. And in Love, who is, he's a guy, and will he you would think he'd be ready to play on the stage when they play Duke next. But, we don't know. But he was really good last night and also on Friday.
And on Saturday, for Will Wade and McNeese, the run came to an end. Thought from the beginning, Jimmy, look, McNeese came out on Thursday. They were so into it. They threw that zone at Clemson that really, really bothered them. They played great defense. They held Clemson to 21% in the first half. They withheld the run late. Clemson was in too big of a hole. They won the game. So much emotion. The story with Will Wade going to NC State, and it would have been asking a lot for them to duplicate all of that on Saturday. I thought they came out and produced much bigger. That is much bigger
team. But McNeese is much more physical, and they're more athletic. And so I know that they like the matchup in the first round. They like the matchup in the second round. And this was one where if, they could really kind of bully Purdue in this one. But I thought their execution was really so clean. They were, and this is what McNeese usually is because they switch everything, that they really played to the switches, and they were well prepared. And, I mean,
if your job at a healthcare facility includes disinfecting against viruses, prevention is the best medicine. And maintaining healthy spaces starts with a healthy cleaning routine. Grainger's world-class supply chain helps ensure you have the quality products you need when you need them. From disinfectants and cleaning supplies to personal protective equipment, so you can help deliver a clean bill of health. Call 1-800-GRAINGER, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
They were knocking shots down, but they had so many easy shots, so many clean looks. And I thought it was just more such a high level of execution on the offensive end by Purdue that it just never allowed McNeese to try and get into where they can get into their head and muck it up and, make it more, kind of street ball and kind kind of bully them and lean on them because we know that Purdue, when they're executing at a high level, they're much cleaner offensively. And this was a basketball. They outskilled McNeese in a big way.
And I thought the length bothered McNeese, and they missed a bunch of free throws, which didn't help. But I thought the size and the length.
This thing was
bothered me.
over early.
Yeah. They came. I wouldn't go so far as to say they came out flat, but like I said, replicating that level of intensity that they had on Thursday.
I disagree. I think Purdue kind of made them look flat. How well they executed.
Yeah.
I mean, they did.
Purdue was really good
They were
from
really
the tip.
on the offensive end. It was just so clean and so. I mean, the ball movement, the clean looks, and then they knocked down shots as well. So I mean, it was just, McNeese is a team that their physicality, their aggression, their athleticism can unnerve some teams, and it certainly unnerved Clemson. And it looked like Purdue. Seeing that on film for a team that won so many games like Clemson, a mature team like Clemson, an old team, man, they respected McNeese's what they can do to unnerve a team with their defense, and they were ready. They were ready, and they just, sometimes coaches always say, well, we just didn't execute it. They executed at an extremely high level.
And Will Wade, extremely emotional in the post game. I thought it was genuine. He went out there. I don't want to talk about NC State today. I want to put a bow on this. What McNeese has meant, and he openly emotional, and that was not a surprise to me. I thought he handled the whole thing as well as he could. It's a difficult situation when you're changing jobs, and everybody knows it. And I thought he handled it really well.
Wade has handled everything well in this stay at McNeese State, and he appreciates the opportunity and when he first took the job, he said, no, I can win here. They got brand new facilities. I've got a friend who's got a daughter on scholarship over there. All the new student athlete, the housing and something. I mean, it's they rebuilt, and they also were going to try and give him as much. He shot him a little high when he first got there, and they said, how about this? And so they said, okay, but they were willing to work with him. And I thought that they showed the broadcast because you had a lot of filler time because the game was not competitive.
Right.
And so they showed the president who was there, and they talked about him, and he said he's kind of got his economist background. And he said, man, I'm estimating about $50 million of free advertising on this run. And so this has been a win. And everybody was just ready to jump on Will. And, man, from the president to the athletic director to the players to Will, I mean, this is a breath of fresh air in college. No lies, no grandstands.
Yeah.
No, total transparency. This is the ultimate business relationship. Both people benefit. Will needed a job to get going again. McNeese needed to be, kind of put on the map, so to speak, and give not just their athletic program, but their university a little bit of a jolt of publicity. And the players, I mean, everybody won, and and the guy who's been painted the worst. When have we seen something was been so transparent in college athletics?
Very.
I mean, I don't want to go hyperbolic, but I mean, it's just it's uncommon. It was it's uncommon enough to where you saw complete flips. How long did Dick Vitale kill Will Wade? Forever.
Yeah, till he was out at LSU.
Flipped.
Yeah.
How long did Pat Forty kill Will Wade?
Oh, just absolutely blasted.
I've heard some others that probably our audience doesn't know. They kill Will. Flipped. Can we? Is that in the rearview mirror now?
Well, yeah. You know why I know that? Because when's the last time you heard him talk about Bruce Pearl's problems with the NCAA, or Calipari's, or Patino's? All of those,
right?
All of those stories have faded way back into memory right now. It'll always be a part of his story, but it's way gone now. It's been gone for all of the. Kansas lost the other day. You hear anything about Bill Self's issues? Sean Miller's getting another shot now at Texas. Okay, after he was in trouble at Arizona and had to go rehab himself back at his old stomping ground, Xavier. So no, In college basketball, you can rehab an image, you can live through a problem, you can do any of that stuff, unless you're at LSU. Then it's got to stay forever, apparently.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Don't forget our friends at Legacy Title, Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title for all of your real estate closings, 296-0060, full-service title company servicing all of South Louisiana. Our great team at Legacy Title, Ashley Bonham-Donald, Mariana Broussard-Haynes, Adrian Reese-Galata, Michael Platt, and the Smiths, Bradford and Natalie Smith. Chad Reynolds, Legacy Title, 296-0060.
Live at Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Jimmy, Charlie, and Troy. Three best buddies sitting around talking sports bets. Let's welcome in Troy Macker from Bet Rivers.
Let's talk to Troy. Troy, you grew up a Big East guy, and we live in SEC country. What is it, man? I mean, just this was, and then you see like the last team to get in from the SEC beat the Big East champion like that. It really wasn't a fluke. It really wasn't overly close, but man, and then you know, is the Cinderella's facing extinction? Is the Big East in trouble? What's going through your head right now, Troy?
It's a 68-team tournament. They happen every year. I really don't like making long-term trends of what's going to happen off of one tournament. Certainly, you know, the no Cinderella's making it is a surprise because it happens every year, sometimes more than most. And there's, you know, ideas that are the super conferences killing it or NIL money killing it. Certainly, we could see tournaments with less Cinderellas, but when you take 15, 18 to 20-year-olds to a neutral court and play against a team they've never seen before, anything can happen. So, you know, I don't think this is the norm going forward, what we're seeing this year. I think it's refreshing because, I mean, like, let's look at some of our second-round matchups we had. They were great matchups that turned into pretty decent games, far less, you know, woodsheddings as we had in the first round. And from a conference standpoint, I really try not to look at conference success because they are individual teams. Certainly, in the case of the SEC this year, I think it's a little different because, you know, Ole Miss, who had, 11 losses, they were underdogs in 16 games they played this year. They were battle-tested. So I think in that standpoint, you know, the seventh or eighth best team in the league shouldn't be surprising to see them, you know, have the success they have because they've been playing top 10 teams all season long.
Well, you know, on my drive back from the Mississippi Gulf Coast this morning, it seemed like there was a lot of doom and gloom. So it's not just me, but, you know, we got to remember, too, could UConn have beaten Florida yesterday? Absolutely. And so UConn wasn't, you know, atop the Big East standings, and Florida is the most respected team coming out of the SEC right now. Even though we're not a number one overall seed, I mean, we could be sitting around saying that as well.
And we're one shot away from Colorado State being in here, and then maybe it's not as big of a conversation.
How about the Colorado State three? Did that guy he draw rain? That thing was such a rainbow, man. I mean, and it fell right in the middle. It wasn't even close to drawing the iron.
Beautiful shot.
I mean,
it was a beautiful shot.
Troy, a lot of attention on maybe the no travel call. I was more on the no help decision by the perimeter defender for Colorado State. Man, I don't even know. He defended nobody in the play. He didn't help. Yeah. Queen I just thought it was a poor decision, or, you know, on that. Queen looked like he had his mind up. It was going, and man, make it get out of his hands. And if you're up one, I'll give up a wide open three.
Yeah, and you know, I think it was a travel, but I'm not mad that they didn't call it. Not one of these where you can't call a travel there because, you know, you got to let them decide the game. But I think it's also just really hard to call that. You know, because you're looking for contact as well. You have a 6'10" guy going straight at the cup with a defender on him. It was very physical. So there's so many things you're looking for. Also, you're trying to watch the clock. Like, it is a very tough call to make, so I'm not upset there. You know, there was, I mean, I'll be honest, I was hammering Colorado State live money line in the last minute solely because Maryland has struggled in close games. Their last four losses, you know, I believe are all buzzer beaters. You know, all of their losses this year by 6 or less points. So, you could get, if you've caught it right, you could get Colorado State plus 180, plus 210 as they traded back at buckets late. So, I wasn't upset at that. But Maryland faces a really tall task now, but should be really intriguing. The matchups in Maryland's next game are going to be fascinating.
Before we get to the individual games that were the big winners or losers for the betting public, overall, it sure seems like a lot of the reports are, because this is the weekend that the public will bet underdogs, and that because the bigger, all those mid majors got pounded so much, it seems like it was kind of a rough weekend, first weekend for the betting public.
Yeah, it was. We actually took losses in 16 of 52 games in the first weekend, but like 3 or 4 of those games were like 4-figure losses. Basically, the cost of doing business. The interesting thing is that 2 of the most popular underdogs were McNeese State and UCSD. And along their way, they played. McNeese State played Purdue, and UCSD had to play Michigan. And Michigan and Purdue, we're seeing a ton of public money come in. So even though San Diego, had a ton of money backing, that was actually a good win for us because the amount of money that was just wagered on that game. A lot of those games you see with underdogs, we probably take anywhere between 35 and 45% of the handle is on live bets, and some of these games with the Cinderellas or potential Cinderellas were not close. So there wasn't really a ton of live betting opportunities for people to get back in and really hammer the book at long odds. Teams, some of them made runs, but they couldn't get close. There was in the first round specifically, the first half is really where you should have bet, because a lot of teams like Wofford and Bryant put up a fight in the first half, but just didn't have the legs, didn't have the gas to keep up for a full 40.
So, Troy, does that contribute, or this is just all pregame? Because I'm looking at your notes here, and the worst result for the betting public, and immediately a few things come to mind. Number one, market in the country, their team, St. John's, okay? But the Arkansas St. John's was the biggest public loser. What did it also include in-game betting, where St. John's was probably a pick-em, throughout different stages of the game that was just compounding the loss instead of trying to absorb the loss?
Yes, live betting is included in that. But if you remember how the game flow, St. John's did not, they were hanging along for dear life, but R.J. Lewis was dreadful. There was a point where they had more missed shots than they had points made. I marked it down. They had 36 missed shots, and they'd only scored 33 points. So at no point was St. John's ever really, still in it. You're like, all they need is a bucket or two, and they can really, make some headway here. And I think a lot of it has to do with, the aura of Pitino. A lot of what people thought pre-tournament. I mean, this was one of the 5 strongest picks to make the Final Four. So I think a lot of it was, pregame, especially since before that game, and certainly I think it was the first or second game of the day, we had taken more tickets on St. John's to win than any other play in the tournament. And right now I think it's like the 3rd or 4th most popular play of the entire tournament. And a lot of that is pregame, simply because of Pitino, what we saw in the Big East tournament, and just kind of the aura of what's taking place.
Purdue, they bet against Purdue in both games. Purdue was leaking oil at the end of the season. Looked like a team that was worn down, but they have covered. They covered against High Point, which was close, but this one was not close against McNeese State. And then the other one, the big game yesterday, standalone, and public was on. They were laying it with Florida, and it got to 8 2 different times. When it was on 8, UConn takes a 2. They lose by 2. I know it's low percentage, but come on, Hurley. You got to try and go get a 3 at that spot. And then the sports book erupted on the last. Charlie, you said there were no buzzer beaters. Oh, that was a buzzer beater for the total. Yes, it went crazy when they hit the 3 at the buzzer to push it over the total at the end. But those 3, Arkansas, St. John's, Purdue, McNeese State, Florida, UConn, the biggest win for the sports book at Bet Rivers.
And one interesting one that you didn't mention is Michigan State. They were 7.5. The entire build up to the game, won by 8. That game was very close late. And that one was where, if New Mexico can make a bucket, or if they can get another foul shot, that game's going a wildly different direction, because, we have taken very strong money on the remaining Big Ten teams, specifically Purdue, Michigan, and Michigan State. And this is one where, the aura of Izzo in March and all that, Michigan State games are going to be very heavily bet on, which is why I'm intrigued by the Ole Miss matchup, because Ole Miss is, at least for people outside of the South, is kind of just like, yeah, they exist because there's so many other teams in the SEC to pay attention to that are better, and they've been around, 5th to 8th place. So I'm very interested to see how people are going to bet Michigan State versus Ole Miss. Ole Miss games haven't been incredibly bet upon. Michigan State's have.
Before Charlie's got a point, but the thing that contributed to Michigan State, so I had a decent play on New Mexico, and I 3 or 4 times money line Michigan State -1.5, -2.5. So Michigan State being down so much during that game, you're getting a real cheap in-game, a live number as well. So pregame and live contributed being such a public win last night.
And I was on the public side on this. I was square. I'm an Izzo believer, and so I went with those guys and ended up catching my. The number of shots that they missed, it was so infuriating because neither team could make a three. And neither team could make a free throw, it seemed like, for forever. It just missed it. For a while, it seemed like there was a lid on the basket. I felt fortunate to get out with a half-point cover.
Yeah, absolutely. It was. I actually found a lot of success in that game. I had the New Mexico team total under 7.5. I just couldn't see anyone scoring 70 points on Michigan State, and had the under, and that will be something I continue to have. Michigan State, one of the best teams to the under in the country this season.
Danny Hurley was coaching New Mexico, who would go crazy. 28 free throw attempts to 10 in that game as well. And Patino, watching his son last night, they looked really good for a long stretch. It looked like they could be, they just, man, this Michigan State, they just keep covering and covering and covering. I mean, it's just how many games in a row? I mean, and they're covering. This was a tough cover, but it just seems like the odds makers are just being stubborn with their numbers. They just won't push it high enough.
Yeah, it's tough to, because they don't score many points. They don't have guys who can erupt for 25 or 30. It's kind of like a committee, but they're really good players. Cohen Carr is really good. Jace Richardson really good, even though he struggled in the first half. This is such a typical Michigan State team. They play below the basket. They're tough, but they're really athletic and get out and run. And even though they can shoot in spots, they're not a high volume offense, and they play really good defense. So it's tough to really juice that number up, because they like to keep things close. They like to keep the pace of play down, and that's going to give teams an opportunity to keep it within 8 to 10 points.
St. John's being the number one media market, it's been such a big story. It has taken over in New York. They've been in Madison Square Garden a lot, the Big East tournament. They rolled through that as well. Was that the number one liability to win it all, or is it we're looking at still Duke and Auburn?
Duke and Auburn. St. John's was certainly climbed up there. The interesting thing is, New York, in the state of New York, you cannot bet on in-state games. So everyone in New York not allowed to bet on St. John's. Now, they don't have the opportunity to do that anymore because obviously they're out. But because of St. John's having such a footprint as an iconic Big East team, and Rick Pitino, who everyone who pays attention to March Madness, even like my mom, she knows so much about Rick Pitino for just paying attention to the tournament every year. That's what really, and it's nostalgic, getting a longtime coach and a longtime program back to the forefront. I think that's what really helped it out. It's disappointing to the books, because if they kept advancing, those games would be right near the top of largest handle, right near the top of largest ticket volume. So we do lose out on that, but they were a top 3 liability to win it all.
I should know that, Troy. I've been reminded when I do these money line parlays for Bet Rivers, and I start out with Army Navy. As in Army, they can't bet Army in New York, Jimmy. So, I mean, Army Navy Tulane, huh, Charlie? A few times this year.
Army Navy Whiskey Tulane.
Yeah, whiskey and Tulane. Follow Troy on Twitter at Troy Macker. That's MACHIR. Lots of fun. Troy, we'll continue this. We'll talk more college basketball later in the week. Good luck to you, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Talk to you soon.
All right, don't forget our friends over at Los Reyes Mexican Grill as well. So I was out of town this weekend, but usually head down to the Queen on the way home. Hit the Los Reyes. Great happy hour, 2:30 to 6:30 every day of the week. So you got specials on house or top shelf margaritas, frozen or on the rocks, and always start off with that delicious fresh guacamole. You talk about good. Fajitas, burritos, nachos, you name it, all at an affordable price. Los Reyes Mexican Grill on Lee, just off of Nicholson, right across from Mike Anderson's.
Live at Big Mike's, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch.
The Thibodaux store, 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux. It is springtime, so if you're getting your yard, your garden, your flower beds into shape, let them help you out with multiple discounts available at the website right now, ThibodauxStore.com, where you can get potting soil, lawn tools, hoses, wheelbarrows, wagons, so many of the things that you need to get your yard in shape this spring. Of course, power tools and hand tools are in abundance on the website. Lots of great discounts there, and most of these items are available for free delivery. If you're heading down to the coast, stop at the Thibodaux store, 900 St. Patrick Highway, and pick up some fishing gear. They've got a huge selection of that if you're going fishing. And once you get the yard in shape, you want to be outside doing some grilling. Big selection of grills, including the big green egg cookers. 900 St. Patrick Highway in Thibodaux. And online, it's ThibodauxStore.com.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Coaching carousel in full swing this morning. Iowa has hired Drake's Ben McCollum as their head coach. We told you earlier, Sean Miller, Xavier, that's official to Texas. And the Golden Gophers at Minnesota have hired Nico Medvedev from Colorado State as their head coach. So
Iowa goes in-state. Drake in the state of Iowa. Colorado State finishes the year on a 12-game ATS run. They did cover easily in these two games. They covered easily in the conference as well. And Sean Miller, we talked about the Big East coaches were eyeing down the SEC job, and well, there was one available, and Sean Miller goes to get it. The two biggest jobs, NC State and Texas.
Yeah, I'd say. Yeah.
And two guys were featured on a Showtime deal.
Is NC State still a bigger job than Minnesota because of the money now?
I don't know.
Hold on to that one. We'll wait. 6-year deal at NC State. Hour number 2, straight ahead at Big Mike's 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Hey, back at Big Mike's, hour number 2. Hot ball crawfish, they are out right now. We're in the heart of crawfish season, 7 days a week here at Big Mike's, so they are out right now. When we come by and get some crawfish, and, of course, later today, every Monday is all-you-can-eat boiled shrimp at Big Mike's, starting at 5 o'clock until close. So if you'd rather have boiled shrimp than boiled crawfish, take your pick. Get it on Mondays all day. Petty Betty, be back in here on Friday night. Live music every weekend here at Big Mike's. Line dancing every week on Wednesdays here. Bingo on Thursdays. You can win items off of the menu. Trivia on Monday nights. Music trivia sometimes, and they'll change that up a little bit. And a terrific happy hour here starting at 3 o'clock Monday through Friday from 3 until 7. You can get $2.50 beer, domestic bottles, and draft, $4 wells, $4 wines. And those prices are good all day on Sunday starting at 11 a.m. Big Mike's on Aspen Square here in Denham Springs. Jimmy, let me ask you about a few that we missed from the first hour. Kentucky has trailed for less than a minute in this tournament.
Good.
Pretty close to a wire-to-wire. A very early 1-point leads for Illinois and a 2-point lead for Troy. But they're pretty much going wire-to-wire in both games with easy wins. And now they get a team that they're very familiar with in Tennessee.
And a team that they match up really well with, that they've swept home and home. And in both games, Butler was either out for the first Tennessee game in Knoxville, where they won, and in the second one, he got hurt toward the end, and Tennessee came back and took the lead, but then Kentucky knocks it down. Kentucky looks real comfortable so far. 38% from 3 in the game on yesterday against Illinois. So they just it seems like their buckets. Tennessee's certainly a better defense, but it seems against their defense they still are able to get some good looks. And maybe that's part of it. Troy was going to be a battle of tempo. Troy wants to really shorten the game and slow it down, and Kentucky really took care of them and made it, none of them. There were very few mid-majors. The one mid-major that made some noise was Colorado State, and they came into the tournament, on fire. And New Mexico played well. New Mexico played very well. New Mexico gave Michigan – that final score is not indicative of how close that game was last night. But Troy, another one in Pope is – Pope's done a really good job. Both games, they shoot just against Troy and against Illinois, just under 40% from three. Tennessee's a different level defensive team. Talking to some SEC fans over the weekend, you think Tennessee's the best defensive team in the country? St. John's was really good, but this is more of a talented league in the Big East, huh?
Yeah,
right.
Without getting into the whole Zakai Ziegler player thing, I thought for a lot of the season that Tennessee was, if they weren't the best, they were in the top 2 or 3 for most of.
They're better. They're more respected than Houston. How about Houston? With 6 straight Sweet 16s.
I knew it was 4 straight for. I knew it was 4 straight. I didn't realize it's 6 straight.
I think it's 6 straight Sweet 16s.
Oh, you know what I'm thinking about? It was the wiped out the COVID year. I had to go back before that. Yeah. I liked Houston was my pick to win it all. They're a better shooting team now to go with that defense. They are extremely well coached. They're physical. They're older. They've got everything they need. They were in control of that game with Gonzaga for most of it. Gonzaga made a late run at them, and depending on where you got the game, you may have even covered with Gonzaga.
Oh, no, everybody covered Gonzaga. Most people did. Most people did.
Because
there were more 5.5s out there than 5s.
I was at a wedding reception where I had Gonzaga plus 5.5.
Yeah.
And was dining with a gentleman who had 4.5 and was really happy.
Oh,
he had Houston
I didn't hear 4.5. He had to buy that.
I probably did.
Okay.
Probably did. You know him real well. He's a rice salesman. He had Houston.
Oh, he definitely
he had Houston
it.
minus 4.5. He was delighted about that.
But the initial thing is Tennessee's better. Tennessee's better than Kentucky. But man, both of these games, it was kind of like it did. I don't know. I just like the way Kentucky matches up with Tennessee, and I think this line's a little bit too high.
What is the line? I didn't even see it.
4.5.
4.5. Okay. Can we start the backfire earlier in the week because we've had this stat hammered into our heads over and over, but it gets misquoted every time. It's so tough to beat a team 3 times in a season, and
I kind of believe that too, Charlie. I think. Yeah,
but the numbers don't bear it out.
Well,
usually there's a big edge.
Usually, we're thinking because when it's close. But usually the team that wins twice is the superior team.
The better team. Yeah.
Okay, well, that's not the case here. Tennessee is the better team.
They had the better year.
They had the better year, and I still think they're the better team. I just see it. It's just Tennessee. It's hard for them to match if Kentucky is knocking down threes.
Yeah.
It's hard for them to score at that pace. It is. So you got strength against weakness. Both teams. Kentucky's strength of their offense against Tennessee's defense. Strength against strength, and then weakness against weakness. And it looks like Tennessee, Kentucky in this matchup can guard Tennessee a little bit better than Tennessee can guard Kentucky.
Yeah.
And it's
I get you on it. I want to make it clear. We'll have the exact numbers later in the week, but there will be a perception that there is a big gap to beat a team 3 times in a season. And if the third game is in the NCAA tournament, it's a lot closer to middle of the road. In other words, there's not a big gap value here with the team that lost the first 2.
Well, usually the team that won the first 2 wins the third one.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly. Yeah,
okay.
and there's not a big gap there either.
Okay,
it's not something that's used like 70-30. Okay?
But I'm trying to tell you, I think it is a little bit of an advantage, even though for the team that lost the first 2. It's just human nature.
Sure.
You respect. I mean, part of the biggest thing to mentally prepare your team in any sport is to respect your opponent.
Yeah.
And if you don't have any fear of them beating you, and you can see these teams kind of go through the motion sometimes when they don't have the fear. They're certainly ready to play on, when they're in the NCAA tournament, but sometimes you see some sloppiness early by the superior team. And I think it's just human nature to have that revenge spot. We talk about it all the time. Some can exaggerate it, some can sort of diminish it, but I like the revenge spot. You get a double revenge spot here for Tennessee.
I'll go with the double revenge spot. I just don't want to make out like this is something that is, a 3-1 or a 4-1 discrepancy when you've got these teams playing a third time. In the NCAA tournament, you play in a conference tournament, you just might get a good team against a bad team. But in the NCAA tournament.
This is, when you look at it, one's a 3 seed, one's a 2.
It's supposed to be a close game, and Kentucky won both of the games by one by 8 and one by 11.
It seems like Tennessee. Well, but they were very, very close games.
Yeah, they weren't blowouts. They ended up, like I said, I think
Tennessee was like 10-point favorites at home.
Tennessee lost at home by 5 and at Kentucky by 11. So it's 5 and 11.
But Tennessee was winning that game in Kentucky by. With like less than 3 minutes to go.
Yeah, and they ended up losing by 5. Here's a team that I'll be honest with you, I saw almost none of them this weekend. How would you feel? Hey, my team's in the Sweet 16. They won both their games by double digits, and they trailed by no more than 3 points and for no more than 2 minutes in 80 minutes of basketball this weekend. And nobody's impressed. Texas Tech beat UNC Wilmington, led pretty much wire to wire, beat Drake. Drake had a couple of short leads in the first half, but pretty much wire to wire. They ended up winning the Wilmington game by 10, the Drake game by 13, but no, nobody's paid any attention. It's about as under the radar as you can get for a
Southwest Conference matchup.
Yeah, against Arkansas.
Texas Tech, Arkansas. So, but Texas Tech is one of those teams that got a couple of alums that, sold their businesses for about $6 billion, and they are, they got a little NIL. How about them when everybody was trying to figure out how to do this player budget thing? They kind of came up with the first business outline out of anybody, huh? When it was just across the board.
Very early.
Across the board. No, it's not about boom. It's everybody on the roster, every scholarship player is getting this much, and then boom, whoever gets more of the endorsements, they get more money. So, I mean, they've kind of been very organized in this whole thing. And so this is kind of doesn't surprise anybody that Texas Tech is good. I like their team. Your boy was out. Was it Williams was out for that first game? That was a little bit of a surprise. They kept that pretty hush-hush. But no, this is a capable team, man, and it's about just getting healthy and getting to full strength. And now they're a significant favorite at 5.5 over Arkansas.
Here's another team that multiple layers of what I would call disrespecting. I'm not wild about that word, but because it gets overplayed too much. But down on Michigan. They're, the Big Ten tournament. They're getting to the first game. UC San Diego is the most favorite underdog because why? Well, they went on an unbelievable run. It's a really good story. It's a really good coach. UC San Diego was as popular a play as there was among the underdogs. Michigan beat them. They get in this game with Texas Tech, what's supposed to be a what game. I'm not going to say Michigan ran away and hit with it, but they won the game by 12, and here they are. It feels like every time we've talked about Michigan for the last 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks, it's been nothing but, they're not this, they're not that. Well, they're in the Sweet 16. They've won all of these games, so there's something to that.
Count me in. I don't think they're that good. But they keep. I hated the making the kind of clumsy spaz 7-footer Wolf, the Yale transfer to the primary ball handler. And he had terrible assist to turnover numbers for the season. And I just thought that these teams would take care of it. That's not all the story, though. The story, A&M looked to be in control. Early second half, double-digit lead. And this game just flips. Flips. And that surprised me. Man, how about Dusty May? To have another Sweet 16 at such a young age, that's pretty damn good to bring two different teams to a Sweet 16. And here they are. And so they find a way. Maryland, with their horrible last 5 seconds of defense, going coast to coast with an easy layup in the Big Ten, semifinal. They were down double digits to Wisconsin in the Big Ten final. They're never out of it, Charlie. They just kind of it's not pretty a whole lot of times, but they're finding ways, man. And they all talk about the Twin Towers. Well, Golden's down low and Wolf's on the perimeter. So, but I don't know, man. It seems like he's being a little bit more careful with the ball. As of late,
he had 3
turnovers.
He had 3 turnovers and 1 assist in this game, so he didn't.
So he's taking less chances.
He didn't have the ball in his hands as much, maybe, or not. Actually, you put it a better way, not taking as many chances. Those were pretty.
It seems like So, because it was kind of reckless and awkward, and I thought because he presents such a different look, they were committed to working through it, and maybe at the end of the year they would catch some teams off guard, but. At some point, no, they're very comfortable in close games.
All right, last one. Your boots on the ground in Tuscaloosa this weekend. What's the feeling about Alabama's first 2
We
wins?
talked about this matchup, and it was is there a better matchup than because the tempo, the battle of tempo, the coaches, who's going to win the battle of tempo with the teams? How can you speed up? It's easier to slow you down than to speed it up. The whole thing. Is there a bigger, more drastic matchup? And when I saw this is it. The high-scoring team in the country in Alabama and the slowest team. Mark Few said, we've been trying to slow down. We've been trying to speed up St. Mary's for 25 years. You can't. Alabama
he would know.
blew me away how comfortable Alabama was in this matchup. It really was. They outclassed St. Mary's. And if anything, they got St. Mary's a little bit sped up, and that doesn't do it. And they were never, ever threatened in this game.
No, I didn't think
never,
so.
Ever.
Even with Sears in a little bit of foul trouble in the first half, they weren't.
Sad Sears, it's amazing how he can how he beats guys off the bounce to the goal to the left side. He never goes right. I don't see how opponents don't play him, force him to go right more. But he gets there. He's also he can get into paint. He's become like this little alley-oop. He threw 2 alley-oops. One was in transition for a reverse alley-oop dunk, and the other one for Nelson.
Yeah.
And listen, one thing about in Tuscaloosa, they know how important Nelson is to this team. And that's where we are. And this is why I'm wondering if this thing is extinct. The Cinderella is dead. Because where's Sears from? Ohio. Yeah. Where's Nelson from? Like Dakota. I forget what Dakota he's from. They went and played him this year. I think it's South Dakota State. Just all these different. Florida's All-American. He started at Iona. Yeah. So it's. I thought this was going to happen more in football, but I guess maybe it's just easier to identify lower levels who may be able to help at higher levels. Because what was the mid-major? The one mid-major thing, Charlie, it wasn't every year, but they would be saying, man, with this team, they're all 23 years old.
Yeah.
They all redshirted. So they all grew up on the team, and they have some continuity on their team. And those kids are getting cherry-picked, man. Anybody with any type of success, where did Dalton Connect come from last year?
Colorado State?
North Colorado.
North Colorado, yeah.
Yeah,
There are coaches now that are putting 90% of their time into the transfer portal and 10% of their time into high school recruiting. I may be exaggerating just a little bit, but not much. You brought up the football analogy. The Sun Belt All-Conference team. every one of them transferred.
Yeah.
In football.
Yeah.
Every single one of them transferred. You're going to get a little bit of this.
So how can Cinderella survive?
And the best,
you got to have some returning players.
I don't want to call them Cinderellas, but the best teams out of what we used to call the mid majors. Okay, this major conference, completely having all 16 teams in the Sweet 16 is a first, but a couple of those years, it's been all major teams and Gonzaga, who was considered a mid-major. But we don't really consider Gonzaga a mid-major. We haven't considered
Gonzaga hasn't been a mid-major in a long time.
But technically, they're in that conference. And we haven't considered Houston a mid-major. But technically, they just got into a power conference last year. Same thing with BYU. Okay? So these teams that would have been – you're going to see the stat a lot. Well, this is the first time that they've, all been – power conference teams. Well, the power conferences have soaked up some of the best of what were technically considered mid-majors.
Davidson made it to the Elite Eight.
Davidson made
No way Steph Curry's making it to his senior year at Davidson now.
No.
Obviously.
Mm-mm.
I mean, you just they're. I think they're in real trouble. Man, these things. This is everybody. Those lines are going to start going up again. I know that. Because the betting public who just loves taking the mid-major. Now, and the names don't even matter. They don't know the difference between Iona, Ohio, in Colorado State. Or North Dakota State. They don't know. But Davidson, but they're going to take them. And it's just the charm of it. And you didn't have it, man.
It will be harder and harder.
Yes. I mean, we can't just not recognize the facts, man. All these guys, these are major players on some of the strongest teams in the country at the high major, and a lot of them have come from the smaller programs.
Let's call them not extinct, but on the endangered list. How's that? This Cinderella. Very endangered.
Extremely endangered, man. I don't know how you could do in a month. Just wait, we know. So don't forget our friends over at United Community Bank, the local way to bank big with locations from Baton Rouge to Golden Meadow. We've been serving the people of Southern Louisiana for over 50 years, including their newest branch at the corner of Burbank and Blue Bonnet. So, go check them out. Again, United Community Bank, our great team of bankers: Heath Meir, Nicole Glover, Hunter Creed, David Campbell, David Henry, and Prentice Wilkes. United Community Bank, member FDIC, equal housing lender.
Live at Big Mike's, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
And today's show is also brought to you by Coastal Capital Advisors, your full-service financial planners. When it comes to retirement, there are no two situations alike. So let Coastal Capital Advisors work with you as well as your business partners, your tax professionals, and legal team to make sure your goals are achieved. Coastal Capital Advisors will work for you no matter what stage of your life you're at, no matter your age or your financial situation. They will tailor-make a plan and build that lifetime relationship with you. I know because that's what they've done for me. So contact Philip Fontenot and his staff at 337-981-1376. Online, it's coastalcapitaladv.com. Advisory services provided by New Age Advisors, member FINRA SIPC. LSU baseball loses 2 out of 3 over the weekend to Texas. This was a series that for the first half of it was pretty much all LSU, and for the second half of it was pretty much all Texas. So if you go kind of in chronological order here, Friday night was everything that you could have asked for. I was listening, driving back to AFR, and Ryan Theriot was on, and he said, if LSU limits the amount of free outs and free bases. Don't give them extra outs, don't give them extra bases. Well, that's baseball gospel for sure. LSU followed that. On Friday night, they did not issue a walk. They did not hit a batter. They did not throw a wild pitch. They did not have a pass ball. They had one inconsequential error, and Cade Anderson was fantastic. 8 strikeouts, 2 hits, 2 runs over 6 innings. And LSU built an 8-2 lead. And this is where the most interesting decision of the weekend took place for me. Zach Cowan has been the best relief pitcher for LSU all season, followed very close by Kason Evans, okay? But I would say that Cowan has a little bit more experience of being a former Friday night guy at Wofford, whereas Evans is a freshman. Both of them have been great, but I would give Cowan the edge. With an 8-2 lead, Jay Johnson went to Cowan, and it worked. Cowan was almost, I think he allowed one over the minimum in 3 innings of shutout baseball, and LSU cruised home with an 8-2 win. Everybody in the starting lineup had one hit. Like I said, the error was inconsequential. It was a textbook game. But afterwards, you had to ask, was Johnson so nervous about a 6-run lead in the 7th inning on the road that he felt like he had to go to his best guy? More on that in a minute. So you go into the second game, and LSU gets off to a terrific start. Anthony Ianson went out the first 3 innings. He was clean. LSU took a lead in the 4th. Texas answered in the bottom of the 4th, but it was 3 singles. It wasn't like he was getting knocked all over the park. And so you go to the 5th. LSU gets 3 runs there. They got a 5-2 lead going to the 5th inning. They've won the first game. They have played really, really strong baseball at this point. In the bottom of the 5th inning, everything fell apart. Ianson lost his command. They decided to go to Connor Ware. He came in, walked the one batter that he faced, so they went to William Schmidt. High-pressure situation on the road. Schmidt he looked nervous to me. There's nothing wrong with the stuff, and I think he's going to get better, but he has looked a little bit rattled in a couple of situations, like in his first start, just for an inning. He got over it. You put him on the road the first time, a little bit nervous, got over it. This is a top 5 team on the road at Dish Falk Field, and it got to him. He was not sharp. Neither was Connor Binge, neither was DJ Premu, who has been really good for a lot of the season. And the game gets away from LSU. They end up walking 7 in the game, but more so than the walks is the hits. And Texas ended up taking the lead there in the bottom of the 5th. And even though LSU was able to answer, the bullpen just fell apart in the 7th and 8th innings, and Texas got home with an 11-7 win. And then you get into Sunday, and Texas did as good a job against Chase Shores with 2 strikes that I have seen. It took Shores 31 pitches to get through a first inning that Texas only scored 1 run. Now think about that for a second. I mean, you're out there for the inning took probably close to 20 minutes. He threw 31 pitches, and they only got 1 run. It through 4 innings, and he really battled. He ended up throwing 96 pitches because Texas kept fouling balls off, good at bats. He only walked 2, but, man, they made him work for every single thing that he got, and LSU was not able to Ruger Riojas was fantastic for Texas. He kept LSU really off balance, I thought, for most of this game. And even when they got him out, Valanis was even better. My goodness, that guy looks like a future major leaguer if I've ever seen one. So the LSU bats went cold on Sunday, and though though Shores battled, he did end up giving up 5 runs. Evans was terrific. He ended up going over 60 pitches for the first time. He only gave up 1 run, but by that time it was too late, and LSU ends up losing the game 6-2 and the series. So a bunch of things to take out of this. Number one, and I feel this way, this was a very even series. These are 2 teams that are both in the top 5 right now, or were LSU just outside the top 5 after the series loss. These are 2 teams that could very easily be in Omaha. Each of these teams has got enough to win a championship, and they pretty much split the 27 innings, if you will, not counting the bottom of the 9th, Saturday and Sunday. They pretty much split it. LSU was in control for most of the first half, and Texas was in control for most of the second half. Give Texas a slight advantage because they were at home. So this is by no means crisis situation. You went on the road and you lost 2 out of 3 to a top 5 team. Okay. What is a bigger concern, and I'm not worried about the offense at all. That this is a very good offensive team. They've got good righty-lefty balance. You'd like to see them have a little bit more power, but other than that, they're fine. They're aggressive on the base pass. This team also plays very good defense. What you're concerned about right now is, are you throwing enough strikes? Anderson's been fine on Friday nights, and Cowan and Evans have been terrific out of the bullpen. Ianson and Shores over the last few weeks have not been as good as you had hoped that they would be at this point. And for Shores, it's been the walks. He's not fallen in as many 1-0 holes as I thought he was. In the game on Sunday, he went 1-0 to 9 batters and 0-1 to 10 batters. It felt like for a while there Texas was going up to the plate with the count 1-0, but I went back and researched it. It wasn't quite as bad as I thought, but he wasn't able to put hitters away. For Ianson, he's 0-1 to twice as many batters as, he's ahead of twice as many batters as he's behind. He just gives up too many hits. And by far, I don't like 9 walks in 25 innings, but it's not a devastating statistic. That's an okay statistic. It's not great, but it's not terrible either. But giving up 32 hits on the weekend is a number that's got to come down, and that bullpen's got to be better. So I go back to the Friday night decision. This one kind of concerns me. And we know that Jay Johnson, when he feels like he's got to go get a win, will use his best guys no matter the situation. It's the one thing that he does that I kind of wish he'd be a little bit more aggressive. We go back to the Tulane series, the Tulane game in the regional in 2023, and he threw Skeens. And it's like, wow, man, you're taking a real chance there. They end up winning the next game by 1 run. Here he's got a 6-run lead. He goes to his best guy in the 7th inning. Why? Because the next day he didn't have his best guy available, and the bullpen got blown up when they had the short lead. So, more strikes, Jimmy, more strikes.
So he used up his top reliever in the game that was
Friday
really
night.
not competitive.
Well, they were up 6 runs in the 7th inning. You've got a little slack in the rope there.
Yeah.
And you were trying to protect a 1-run lead on Saturday, and
That's
you didn't have
a good comparison because the Tulane had like a losing record. And the regional year. And I want to.
I remember leaving Rufino's mad. I'm like, I cannot believe he's throwing Shores in this game. It worked out. They won the championship and all that, but I still disagree with that decision. And here he says, look, but in this case, he's proven right, at least for a day, because if he'd have gone to the guys he went to on Saturday, on Friday with the 6-run lead, the lead might have evaporated. And you can always bring him in an inning later if you give up 2 or 3. Bears watching.
Well, let me say this. No matter what level, a good bullpen makes the manager or coach look good.
Yeah.
A shaky bullpen, make it. And so can a reliever pitch in game 1 and come back in game 3?
Yes, Cowan did that last week.
But cannot go back-to-back days.
He might
can if it's, closers do, just like for an inning.
Yeah.
A piece, very short. But 7 with 9 outs to go.
We've seen Evans.
How many pitches? How many innings did the top reliever throw in
3
game 1?
Okay. He threw
the extended save. Huh?
Yeah, it was 55 pitches, so he can't throw 55 and come back. I would think he could probably throw 30 and come back and throw 30 more.
Yeah, he was.
But 55 pitches, no, you can't bring him back after that.
And is there such a thing as momentum? So then when you throw in with the slack in the rope, and because. Normally, come on, LSU, you're trying to win them all. You're not trying to win one. Yeah. And so you should, in LSU's, and look, there is not a whole lot of teams in college baseball that have pitching depth. But this was supposed to be a roster that had a bunch of arms, right?
Yeah.
And so the capable arms and so you got that big of a lead. You got to get more out of your secondary relief because Yeah, you have to.
There's some guys that I think just need to pitch more. I just think William Schmidt needs to pitch more. And this is not a criticism. He's a true freshman. Okay, I expect him to be better in May than he is in March. Shores, I have to keep reminding myself. And Doug Thompson made a great point on the podcast last week, and he'll be on with us again today. You can check it out, Handycast on the YouTube. He says, don't think of Shores as a third-year guy. Think of him as a guy who's thrown 50 innings in 3 years. He's lightly pitched. He needs more. Yep. They need to throw more. And you think about the 23 team. Thatcher Hurd was like that. You know, he was coming off the Tommy John in February and March. He was shaky. In June, he was nails. So you got to be a little bit patient with some of these guys that just need to pitch more.
Yeah.
That's it.
Agreed. You got the rankings out?
Yeah, they are anywhere between 5 and 8. Okay. In all of the
Tennessee won.
Tennessee is number 1 in the country. They took 2 out of 3.
They lost the first one in.
Let's see. LSU is they are 5, 8, 7, and 6 in the polls.
Texas moved up.
Texas is 3, 7, 5, and 7. So yeah,
who's 2?
A little bit. Arkansas.
Oh yeah. Did they sweep South Carolina?
Yes. Yeah. And Florida's 0-6 in the league.
Well, Sully was trying to. He don't have that NIL money over there. And I don't know how much he's using at all. But I mean, I don't.
Rough start for those guys.
Yeah, that's that's really really tough. Don't forget our friends at Dana Brown at the law offices of O.C. Brown, your law firm for a lifetime. 343-1111 and ocbrown.com. Never a charge for initial consultation. Dana, both Charlie and I have used Dana's specialized team of attorneys for different reasons, different stages of our lives, and whether it's you name it, family estate planning, traffic accidents, DWIs, you name it. I mean, he can help you out. 343-1111 and ocbrown.com.
Live at Big Mike Sports Bar and Grill, live at lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at lunch with Ott and Hanny from Big Mike Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
The LSU women's basketball team will play their final home game of the season as they take on Florida State. 5 o'clock tip at the PMAC. This is to advance to the round of 16. LSU a 103-48 winner on Saturday night, late Saturday night.
Drew the attention of some people who said late in the game and saying that, they're still kind of what are they doing? They still playing hard, still playing other possessions, things like that. I mean, remember Nick Saban's little tirade one year when A.J. McCarron was in mop-up time and he didn't do
Vaguely.
It was one of his.
Against McCarron on the sideline. Yeah.
Absolutely. McCarron was a backup at the time.
Yes, I remember that very well.
No. If you allow sloppiness, no matter. I mean, they're coaching. Mm-hmm. They're coaching. Yes, because so many coaches are afraid to coach.
Yeah.
These days.
I saw Mulkey shoot a look at, I forgot which player it was, threw a behind-the-back pass that went out of bounds. They were up 20 on the road at Florida. It just caught my attention. She had this look of disgust on her face because she was, going to ride her a little bit when she got it up 20 on the road, and I don't care. I'm still coaching. The biggest thing for me out of this game was to watch Flau'jae Johnson and Anissa Morrow and see how healthy they were. And both of them looked fine. Johnson ended up with 22 points. She shot 9 of 15 from the floor. She played 22 minutes. That's exactly what I would have wanted to see out of her. Morrow had a double-double. She was 12 and 12, and she played 25 minutes, which was a team high. So neither one of them had to play extended minutes, obviously, but both of them played enough to know that they did not appear to be in any way compromised. LSU got 5 players in double-digit minutes off their bench, so they played everybody, and they still were pouring it on in the fourth quarter with reserves on the floor. So I don't know anything about San Diego State. Obviously, they had a good season, but they're a little bit out of their league here with LSU scoring 103 points.
Of course.
The good news was
there's a little bit more competitive balance in the women's game, but still got a long way to go.
They do. For instance, this what we're watching today: 7 versus 2, 8 versus 1, 6 versus 3, 5 versus 4, 6 versus 3, 6 versus 3, 9 versus 1, and 10 versus 2. So on this side of the bracket, you had a 9 beat an 8.
Just the men's game at
and a 10 beat a
13
7.
through 16, no winners.
Yeah. So
that's more common for the women, though. But
it is.
So maybe we're saying like the men is becoming more like the women.
Yeah.
I mean, I hate to be doing, but man, I'm. This weekend was underwhelming. It's always great. It's a can't miss, but it's been better. Sorry.
Okay,
it's been better.
Would you have felt better if?
I can't lie.
Yeah, no. It did not have as many of the drama-filled games. Would you?
I mean, UCSD Michigan was great, and then the whistles were, but that was great. And last night was great. Colorado State and Maryland, but they're too far and few between.
Would you have felt better? I know the narrative would have been different if instead of 10 seed Arkansas winning, 10 seed Colorado State. Oh, actually, Colorado State was a 12 seed, but if Colorado State had won. Or New Mexico was a 10 seed. They were in that game with Michigan State.
New Mexico,
if they win as a 10 seed instead of Arkansas, do you feel differently? They're both 10 seeds, but we don't think of them as anything close to peers. Yeah,
of course. One's a have and one's a have not.
So here's what we're going to have to come to grips with: when you have conferences with 16 and 18 teams, more of those teams are going to get in, and they're going to soak up some of these 9, 10, 11, 12 seeds that have gone to mid-majors.
At large as you had this year.
3?
1.
Yeah. There's your answer. We should have seen this. I mean, we talked about how the record number of teams getting in. But it's math. I mean, if a record number of teams get into the 64, they're going to have a record number get into the 16.
Akron won their league and their tournament. We talked about those teams, but they were not competitive with Arizona. Robert Morris was competitive with Alabama.
They were.
Absolutely. Very competitive. They won their regular season in their tournament.
VCU
the Tritons, and no doubt UCSD. I mean, here's Michigan in the Sweet 16, and they gave them a tougher game than A&M did.
Memphis,
but it's just
Liberty,
it's not as many. It's not as many. No, Liberty didn't compete. They were expected.
VCU got
VCU got smashed. Yeah. And that was they dominated the Atlantic 10.
Yale hung in there as far as almost covering, but they weren't ever going to be close to winning that game. I mean,
I thought Yale was a big disappointment.
Yeah,
they were way less competitive than what we would think out of a team that's been there like 4 out of 7 years, won games and been competitive. Yeah, and with some returning players.
They were
like Yale. What if they had the guy Anuaniwa, Peter whatever, but what if they had Wolf too? Who's now at Michigan,
right?
I mean,
those are the players. They were about 7.5 point underdogs.
Yes.
Okay. They lost by 9. They were.
Yeah, but they weren't
going to win. They were never close to win. They were close to covering.
But not even. They kind of got late, but they were. I had Yale. It was not a bad beat by any stretch.
No, it wasn't.
It wasn't even much of a sweat.
I had Yale as
well. For a game that fell like 1.5 from the number, it was not a sweat.
I felt like I was hanging on the whole way, and they didn't.
But then again, the same game when that sounded like Houston and Arizona. Houston and Arizona winning 10-12 the whole game until they start making. I'm going to tell you who got away with it. Who got away with it, and they started running clock way too early was Auburn, because that 14-point lead cut in half to 7, and the two guards. Denver Jones and Pettiford were so good that they were able to steal with a short possession clock. We're still able to make big buckets for them.
They were losing
that freshman Pettiford is something.
They were losing that game at the half, weren't they?
I think so.
Yeah, but like
I think
two or something.
They played lights out in the second half. But and they had guys cramping up, Baker Mazara and some others. Don't forget we're over here at Big Mike's in Denham Springs and boil crawfish every day, starting at lunchtime, and going to get into some as soon as we get off the air over here. Tomorrow we'll be at Mike Anderson Seafood on Lee, just off of Nicholson for Oyster Day over there, and looking forward to that. So again, come on by and check us out for lunch each and every week. Today at Mike's Grill, tomorrow at Mike Anderson's.
Live at Big Mike's Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
Live at Lunch with Ott and Hanny from Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs on 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.
transfer portal over for LSU basketball. Corey Chest puts his name into the portal, joining Mike Williams and Tyrell Ward. Ward left the team before the start of the season. 6 points, 6.5 rebounds a game for Chest, who was hurt at the end of the season. We expect that, well, I shouldn't say we. I don't want to speak for you, Jimmy. I expect that LSU will turn over probably 90% of this roster. And we'll see what it looks like at the end. But the exodus, I'm sure, is not over. I expect them to turn over most of this roster. That's what they said they wanted to do. They're going to invest some more NIL money, so not a big surprise. I expect there to be more to follow. The one guy I hope doesn't leave, the guy I hope doesn't leave the most is Robert Miller. I think he's got some, and it's not like he's the only one that's got any talent. But of the ones that I hope come back, my list starts with Robert Miller. I would hope he would come back. I think he's got some potential. I think he's got some athleticism. He's got some size. I think he can get better. I'd like to see him come back. After that, whatever happens, happens.
Well, there's a lot of a little bit of some rumblings about trying to make a late run at Will Wade and this and that. Governor stepping in when he's alerted how upset the board is after they were embarrassed in the SEC tournament. Problem was only one board member was really pushing for this for months, and it just kind of shows you if your board is alerted after the last game of the season that this thing wasn't working, you really don't have a basketball presence on that board. Enough as it is, and it was too late. So when the governor goes and tries to tell LSU officials, you got to get this done or else, a little late in the game, man.
Very late.
A little late in the game.
Ball Crawfish, 7 days a week here at Big Mike's. Petty Betty back in for live music this Friday night, and always something going on here at Big Mike's with the best happy hour around. For Jimmy Odd, for Jordan back in the studio, I'm Charles Hanniger saying thank you and good afternoon from Big Mike's Sports Bar and Grill in Denham Springs. This has been Live at Lunch, 104.5 ESPN Baton Rouge.